Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is That's a Fun Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, and I'm joined as always by Jose Fuentes.
That's me.
And Aaron Humphreys.
Hello.
Yes. And tonight we're going to be talking about publishing comics. Comics being a wide and weird industry. You're not really bound by traditional publishers anymore. Certainly, if you want to work on their intellectual properties, you do need to work out that contract if you do want to create your X-Men masterpiece. But other than that, if you work on your own thing, you have a multitude of options on how you want to get your comics out there. Aaron just died.
Yeah.
I thought Aaron fell for a minute.
No, I let my
man.
cat down and hit the cord. My cord on my headphone is super long. So.
Yeah, occasionally my cats will walk by and just unplug my monitor. It's very fun.
I have a Cintiq. I actually thought my computer was broken today, and then I found out that you can actually turn the Cintiq on and off like a monitor, and I must have flicked it off. You know what? Click. I'm like, oh, okay, got it.
Nice.
So.
All right. We have multiple ways you can go about getting your comics out there. So we'll be talking a little bit about each one, our experience with them, the ones we've worked with, as well as maybe some best practices, but we'll probably be treating this one a bit fast and loose as we are that show. So
that show on Tuesday.
That show on Tuesday, yeah. So obviously we all are currently putting out books through Silverline.
Yes.
Silverline is kind of interesting in that it is kind of like an art house small publisher. And that
I can see that.
Yeah, it's a collection of a bunch of different creators who didn't want to just publish by themselves. And are loosely organized by our head editor, Roland.
Yeah. It seems like El Jefe, the big cheese, the head honcho.
Right.
It does seem like more of an art house. I'm trying to think of
Hello there, viewer.
It's not a traditional public because we all live all over the place, all over the country and stuff. I think most publishers do, but I don't know. It seems it's a bit more of a collective of comic creators.
Yeah.
Collection of nerds.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the chat, you don't need to donate. You can just follow the link and buy our comics. You can get credit for it. We're collection because of that. We also have a wide variety of genres. Whereas, if you're working with some other small publishers, that might be very genre specific, or even if you're working with the big two or big however many, the big names, they're usually you're writing heroes or whatever.
Did we lose him permanently?
No, Tim's a robot, and so every so often
he will shut down the recharge.
Yeah.
I'm like Max Headroom. Occasionally, I just glitch.
Right.
Have I told you about advertising? Wow. Yeah. Here are some ads.
You make me feel less old, Tim. Thank you.
Dude, Max Headroom is an absolute vibe. It's also still relevant.
Right. I remember when it was just a little snippet thing for MTV, and then they actually turned it into a show. Yeah. Show around Max Headroom.
Did you ever watch the movie?
There was a movie?
There's a movie that is the making of. It's a fictional making of for Max Headroom.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I don't think I've seen the movie. That sounds interesting.
I just know the dude that played Max Headroom what's his name? Was it Trash Can Man from The Stand?
Yes.
Now, it was originally just something to announce videos on MTV and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See there.
I mean, I remember him being in the second Back to the Future.
He was also in Pixels.
Was it? He was. They also put him in the second Back to the Future too when he went to the '80s theme bar.
Yeah. So they had
when he ordered the drink, it was him that he was talking to, or was a variation of him.
Yeah. So there was a so originally it was a movie, 1985 called Max Headroom: 20 Minutes into the Future.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
yeah.
Wasn't the TV show like just him doing skits or whatever? It wasn't full-fledged.
No, it was So Max Headroom was like the AI that helped the resistance that was fighting against like whatever the government of like that.
Oh, really?
Like he was the AI that like helped it hack into certain things to be able to like to get what they needed. Yeah, it was a whole dystopian thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it would be more comedy based on like what he originally was.
Well, they had Max Headroom: 20 Minutes in the Future, which is a cyberpunk television film setting that up.
Yeah.
Then it got turned into the Max Headroom show down the line, which was I believe there was the original show was essentially cuts of the movie, and then
gotcha.
And then later on became the Max Headroom show, which was a talk show where it was Max Headroom put it up front. Yeah, you're supposed to be like interviewing celebrities, and there were actual celebrities who were just like, by the way, going to be talking to a television screen, and it's going to freak out.
They did the same.
Just act normal.
So it was like an early version, like we did with Space Ghost.
Yes,
talking to the cartoon or whatever. Yeah. So
that hurts my soul, by the way. Space
Ghost. Space Ghost, Coast to Coast.
I'm a classic, man. Space Ghost was the bomb for me back in the day. And they ruined them when they did Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. Because then everyone was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Space Ghost is an idiot. And then you have the bird guy.
Harvard for attorney at law. Yeah.
Listen, I gave that one a good 3-episode try. Like a friend of mine talked about it. Oh, you have to see this. It's the greatest thing in the whole wide world. I'm like, it makes fun of all the other. Like, I'll watch it. I sat there for 3 episodes like this.
I still go back and rewatch them every now and then. I also love C Lab 2021.
That one was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That one made my brain hurt just how stupid it was. It really did.
I just love how like, you know, that's let the be listen. You let your copyright lapse for 1 year, all of a sudden everything is parodied, and all the cells, all the animation cells fall into someone else's hands, and like, well, we're just gonna voice over all this now.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they did that with Winnie the Pooh. Now they have like a horror movie of Winnie the Pooh coming out.
Yeah. Is that legit? Because someone told me that was legit.
Yes, that's not even like the thing of like copyright lapsing. That's just an issue of it falling into public domain now.
Oh
yeah. No one can legally claim ownership of the Winnie the Pooh idea. So
that hurts my soul a little bit too, because Winnie the Pooh is classic.
Yeah, it's always weird, and I've noticed in this public domain every time those things fall into it, they always want to do a horror version, like
that's because
or something satirical.
Yeah, it's because people want to do something that bring out their childhood trauma.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I know Alice in Wonderland had a few horror things.
American McGee's. Yeah.
Okay, that was dope. That game was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
He made 2 of those, I think, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah. Was it Return to Madness or something like that? Was the second one?
Yeah,
that was like freaking Cheshire Cat was a heroin addict or something. That's what it looked like.
And was it The Great Gatsby also just entered public domain, so I'm hoping someone does like a Cthulhu remedy of that.
Wouldn't that be almost like like they have Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and then they have what's the other one? There's 2 like
Vampire Hunter. Well, there's Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah, there's Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. There's Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, but there's another one like that where they went after zombies or vampires as well. But yeah, like man, to see a freaking Great Gatsby, like a Great Gatsby, like was it gothic horror or not gothic horror?
Cosmic horror?
Yeah.
Yes.
Man,
that would be cool. Right. I'd go for that.
Right?
And to tie back in, because we're not genre specific, we could publish something like that here at Silverline while also doing our traditional Cape run and our history books and all that without being tied down to any specific genre, necessarily breaking out of customer expectations. We can also just kind of go off the rails because we're a non-genre specific show.
Yeah. And well, I'm even in our books. I mean, I think It's funny. I've noticed that when we first started, we were kind of a little more superhero centric. We had like cat and mouse.
Yeah.
The Fury trumps, but now we seem to be moving into some historical. Like you have the Wolf Hunter, and then the Steam Patriots, and then we have some horror comics and stuff too. Yeah, Kalis. Yeah. So.
I think that start out is kind of it kind of got. You can see where it comes from because of the founding members of Silverline all kind of having that history at Marvel Comics and Malibu. So that was a lot of what they worked on originally when they first got into it. And I grew up on capes as well, but all my writing experience has been in historical short fiction or in thrillers. So doing spy stuff or now one of my fascinations is with history and with mythology. So building on next will be my next book will be Sol Invictus, which is science fiction mythological science fiction.
A story about a luxury watch.
Yes.
And I've read other science fiction that's dealt with like mixed mythology and science fiction. Yeah. Which is always kind of cool. I mean, I've always been interested in those sort of that gods really just advanced alien civilizations that we mistake as gods because the technology is so advanced.
All right. This one is kind of going the opposite, where our technology got so advanced that we discovered Roman gods. They're like, we looked them up and they're like, yeah, we've just been hiding. Like, you guys had it handled. And when we finally colonize the planets, the gods inside finally wake up and like, oh, I guess we could claim our domains again.
Yeah. I'm interested. Now you're working on the first issue of that, and that's going to be 4 issues, right?
I believe it's going to be 4 issues. I have the first issue done. I believe it's with an artist. Working on the second issue while I wait to hear back on the first issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just finished the second issue of The Obsoletes.
Nice.
As Jose may have known.
I saw the pages.
I see someone's commentating for something since his number 2 crown is missing. So sad, and you need to allow yourself to put in the title. We'll let you live your little life for now. Everyone knows the truth. That is Mackenzie Wortman,
Mackenzie.
Our current host who is missing. She might be back in the next week or so. However, she's feeling better. She's currently out, so whenever she's feeling better, we'll welcome her back. But until then, get some rest. Drink some water.
No cuddling with your dinosaurs.
So, I was kind of talking about, I was like working with us is that we can kind of, do whatever. Any ideas that would come through the door, if they're good, we welcome them.
Right.
Our submission process is also, we have, we'll get into this as we talk about different examples, but you always just call it Hayden. That being Hayden Christensen.
Yes.
The submission process that we have is an open submission, which we have listed on our website. Sometimes we and we'll go through periods of opening and closing that. Some companies are completely closed and will just have an invitation only style essentially solicitation process where they'll reach out to you to send in your ideas to pitch to them.
Right.
However, for us,
they tell you it's an open submission, but it isn't.
No.
Yeah. And other companies are like us, where it is, either always open or rotating open submissions.
Yeah. Because I think I haven't even looked at our submissions page. I know a lot of them when you do. I think this is why so many people still do publishing online and stuff. It's just because you could just do whatever you want as long as you can get the money, especially with print on demand.
Exactly.
And there used to be a lot of leverage, and I think there still is to a degree with publishing through a traditional publisher. But a lot of the ones I have don't even really take the time to market your book that much. So if you're doing it for marketing, it's almost like it really falls to you for the most part. So if you're going to do that, you might as well just foot the bill.
Might as well self-publish. Yeah. And it's either having a place that already has the distribution in place, or ours is set up in such a way that as a creator, you're not footing the bill yourself.
And that's panhandle.
Yeah, that's kind of our the benefit that we offer for those who wish to create through us is we give them sort of creative network to help them expand the reach of marketing as well as taking that initial investment off their backs.
Yeah.
I
think there are benefits to going through a traditional publisher.
Yeah.
There was even with Silverline, that sort of team marketing, like I can stream with you guys and do Kickstarters together, and sort of that combined marketing, I think, is powerful.
Well, it's always that that cross-pollination always helps. A rising tide elevates all ships. But if you're going through like a small publisher that isn't really giving you the same benefits, and you have the cash on hand to pay your artist, or you have an artist who's willing to sign a split contract at the end of a Kickstarting campaign, which if you can find one like that, you have found the unicorn.
Right?
Yeah, it's like pay your artist, people. But then you might as well just go through your own work, because you're going to get so many less. There's going to be less cooks in the kitchen, and it's going to be your boat to run if you're not getting any additional benefit from through a small house.
A downside to that as well is because you don't have anybody else there to help you keep an accountability.
Yeah.
Things kind of slip through the cracks if you don't have someone to edit your book, edit your writing, then like things get messed up. And thankfully, like, because I self-published my first book. It was a Gothic Western. And I self-published that, but I had my best friend who's like extremely critical, right? Like to the point where I want to slap him. But I'm glad, because he was critical about how close my my caption or thought boxes were, like from the panel borders. You know what I mean? And then he was critical about the making sure that all the grammar was correct. And if it wasn't, like, I think that put the book off by like 2 or 3 weeks, because I had to go back and fix all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I didn't, then when the book came out, I would have caught it, and then I would have been pissed.
You would have hated it, yeah.
So, like, I appreciate the fact he was that critical.
Yeah, if you're writing and if you're creating, you definitely need alpha and beta readers just to make sure everything works out. You can get professional ones that do require some payment, but other times you end up getting like professional friends who are able to do that service for you without for a 6-pack or what have you. In my case, I grew up. Some might call this a toxic household, but my mother was. You guys know like campfire books, where you do like. Speaking of public domain, they publish public domain materials.
It doesn't sound familiar to me.
Okay. No. All right. I have family members who have done adaptations of work for them, and so they're able to critique my stuff, and so.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, kind of, right?
Yes, but then also you're like you we have like family face, and then publishing professional face, or like different person.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
That sort of like, how do you be nice, be a family member, but also be like, the stuff isn't publishable. You work on it.
That's kind of thing where like everyone knows it, and you get comfortable with it, but it's still like a weird thing to first grow into. Is that there's no way you can't sugarcoat anything. It's just straight up like, here's what's bad.
Right.
Yeah. I've encountered that with a few people who are probably in just how do you express to them that what you're writing is not there yet. Nobody wants to hear
mad and you tell them they're not invited for Christmas.
Right. Well, the biggest skill you can develop as a writer or even as an artist is thick skin.
Yeah. Especially after letting Tim read my stuff, because man, he just tears it apart.
That's my job as an editor. But
he's vicious.
And it's not saying like if someone's abusing you, don't take that. But like understand that if someone's giving you criticism, it's generally coming from a place of them wanting your work to be the best possible.
You said every time you smack me because when you find a misspelling in my work, that wasn't abuse.
Yes. As we just do the I just have Aaron doing in plank position with the pencil in front of him.
Yeah.
He turns with the reed just
bad.
Like, I don't know. I sent
you're definitely
him a Christmas card. He sent it back to me with a bunch of red marks where I messed up.
Yeah, he spelled Merry Christmas wrong and all this other stuff.
I felt, I mean, yeah. And if you're working as an editor for a small house, even if you're, looking for content, don't shy away from, telling people that stuff needs work. I have, when I first got with Silverline, I was actually one of the submissions editors, so I got all the fresh submissions, and then I was given another project. So, very much gave them notes like this is not good. This isn't a story.
So you're the one that crushed dreams.
Yes.
Yes.
I try to give them like full notes back saying like, this doesn't work in its current state. Please update X, Y, and Z and send it back.
Or sent mine back and said, did you write it in English? I mean,
and then, you do have to occasionally can a project because the writer is, not fully cognizant of what they're writing, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
That's kind of weird thing. We're like, it is a whole moment. I won't get into it.
I take it you've had to do this before?
Yes. Yeah. The script was not, there was no following instructions from anyone else on the team, which, not following guidelines, there was not development or clarity. Essentially, if you were to get that as the artist, each page would be in a different style, and they wouldn't necessarily tell you what they'd want in each thing. So it was kind of like you would have to create the story from there, and then we'd just tell the writer to go back and fix it. But we figured, like, let's not try to mess around with that. We'll just tell them to develop it into a full script and then come back to us later.
Right. That's always important.
That's pretty fair, though.
Yeah, because it's already get a point where like you get like, okay, great, 2 pages, full scripting. Next page is done like Marvel plot style. Okay, you can work with that. Why is there a 5-page summary following this? It's like, what's an artist going to do with just like pages like 6 through 11? This happens.
Yeah.
Right. The next set isn't even a script or an outline. It's just word bubbles.
Exactly. Yeah.
No context as to why anybody's saying anything.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, if you're not writing panel by panel, you at least got to write page by page, so your artist has something to go off of.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess we'll take that into working with indies. Sometimes if you are in the completely independent market, you're publishing yourself through Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or what have you. Mm-hmm. It's typically going to be either you, if you're an auteur, or you and your writer and artist. Sometimes you might get a separate color store letter on there. Really, I have not really seen any like Kickstarters and Indiegogos with more than 3 people on it. Occasionally, you might be able to hire like our project editor, but usually that just falls into like everyone serves as a collective editor. Someone's bird is.
Yeah, I've seen a decent amount of Kickstarters.
I don't know why he thinks he should be awake.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I've seen a few Kickstarters with more than, but then they have like editors in chief and editors and stuff. Yeah. And, but it's usually a writer, artist, and colorist, or letter. Well, the letterer usually sometimes the writer would take over the lettering.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be dependent, right? If the writer knew how to letter, because
if the letter, it's like that's a whole separate like skill set. But it depends on if they know how to do that, or sometimes they will pass it on to the artist on occasionally see that. That's when sometimes he gets like some of those like it would look great if the artist has like good calligraphy, but it's weird. But in that case, you're usually just dealing with yourselves, and you're also your own marketing team as well as your own. If you business to business emails, because you got to. I turned to Max Headroom again. You have to get, you have to get a hold of the whoever you're printing or binding with, and figure out how you're shipping from there. So, independent, you got a lot of work on your back. You do, and there's a lot of learning and stuff. Especially if you go through like printers or print on demand, you may not always get back, and then you have to catch everything, especially with an editor. I mean, there was a kid's book I published that has a misspelling in the very, very back, and this picture is on the inside back cover. But it is what it is now. It's permanent. So,
right. We have a question, Tim.
I did. Feels like bait.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and so either you got, I guess that is, if you're probably the most tangible benefit with going to a small publisher at that point is getting that work off your back. You don't have to learn those skill sets.
Yeah.
Potentially, or I have heard some horror stories from other small publishers or other groups that do not do that for you. But
I think being an independent creator, I kind of wear most hats. Not all of them very well. I mean, I have my strengths and more than others. Marketing is something.
Yeah, everyone's always going to be stronger or weaker at something than someone else. But I think there is definitely some value in at least getting familiar with those skill sets or getting more acquainted with all the aspects of the industry.
Yeah.
Right. I had to learn to letter, like before I went to art school, to letter my own book. Yeah. But like that was me learning how to use Illustrator to do it. You know what I mean? So it was like 2 birds, 1 stone kind of situation.
Yes, and we are joined now by Quentin Bedwell.
Sorry, friends, I was late.
All right. You're all good. We just talked about working with smaller publishing houses and some of the differences there. Now we're talking about how to publish your comic or the process of publishing your comic as a completely independent creator, and from there we'll probably move into.
Oh, that reminds me.
Yeah,
it's really easy, really easy. Even making comics is especially easy.
the life leaves Quentin's eyes.
Right.
It's so easy. I mean, Aaron was able to put out what, 9 books, 9 episodes of Godlings. Is that right, Aaron?
Yeah, it's 12.
12. Yeah.
12. See, it's easy.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. If you can't make comics, I don't know what you're doing. Whatever. Excuses.
Yes. Well, there's also kind of like an interesting thing there where, like, if you're working with a publishing house, you probably have some level of support system to get things out a little quicker. Aaron, working on those books by yourself to get out 12 issues, about how long did it take you, working a job, having a life?
I usually would finish a book every like 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
But it was already kind of written because I redid the book. The book was already done, so I was redoing it. So I cut out a lot of the writing. So if I'm writing from scratch and then trying to figure out all the thumbnails and do that, that's longer. But I had kind of a cheat. And also I didn't ink it.
Yes.
So I skipped the step to make it go quick. Now, if I was still inking it and stuff, I would still be on it probably. Yeah. So there's a cheat on that.
Yeah. Well, but also, so there is, the argument for working with a small house there is you get if you could outsource that inking to someone else. But then I almost say a counter argument to working completely independent is you learn the stages that you can cut to save time. I think this is something I can do or something I can improve to make my process more time efficient.
Yeah.
You figure out how to get faster too.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting on the same page for so long, and you try to figure out ways to you try to trim the fat and make you go faster.
Digital, I've started using that. I can see how that can go faster. Now, strangely enough, when I was doing my pencils, I did the penciled work, photocopied and darkened the lines to make it almost kind of inked. But with digital, you can skip penciling almost to go straight to inks because you can just do it over in black line. So
absolutely.
A little reverse. Yeah.
What are you working on, Mr. Jose? I see you inking away.
Right now I'm working on a page for Cat and Mouse. And then I am going to get a couple pages done and then switch over to Aaron's pencils for obsolete.
Yeah.
Is it top secret or can we see real quick?
It is top secret. Everything Jose does is top secret.
If it won't get in the way of your workflow.
Nah. See if I can.
Come on, Jose, share with the rest of the class.
I know, right? I lock my screen so it doesn't it won't rotate on me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it if it's gonna be a problem.
It's not confusing.
No, if you can't do it, if you can't lift up the paper,
what paper?
It's paper.
You're doing digital.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, look at all those bricks.
Oh god.
Those windows. Oh my goodness.
Oh, not rotate.
Oh, okay. I threw Jose up.
Just dropped it.
Yeah, here we go.
What happened? Oh,
he's gonna highlight you.
Yes. That fish is my favorite part that I think on this page.
That's a fish.
That's so.
That's detail right there.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, there is inked detail, but then there's like element detail. You know.
Yeah.
There's a lot on this, and cool. I'm just like I had already finished this page. I've got like 2 other pages under work that I'm working in the middle of because I'll get bored with one page. I'll switch to another one.
Yeah.
This one's just the details. I got to throw in like the swoosh from the sword and like some of the silhouette shadows and stuff like that, and then I'm done with this page. So that's all I'm doing.
That's the kind of stuff right there that sells a piece. When you have little stuff in there that doesn't mean anything, like those fish bones.
Right.
But if it wasn't there, you wouldn't miss it. Yeah. But it being there just adds so much to it.
Strangely enough,
the entire exterior of a English Baptist chapel.
Right.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Aaron?
Oh no, I was saying seems to be like the more busy, more details you have in a drawing, the more people find it.
Well, it's
like more impressive.
I am one that if there's a lot of not so much busyness, but if there's like a lot of detail and things in a page and whatnot, I'm gonna be the one sitting there like seeing what I can find in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, because that's just me. Like I'm sure there's a lot of other people like me, but like I want to see. Am I gonna miss something like a little Easter egg in there and whatnot?
Yeah,
Oh no, I used to have fun looking at all the Where's Waldo books because not only could you find Waldo, but that had a list of all this other stuff you can find.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's like the same thing with writing almost. No one likes a story or art to be busy for the sake of being busy. But if there's a lot of clean detail that you can engage with, then it's much easier just to sink into. That's it's absolutely not like pertinent to the story, but I love being the guy that people can ask about, like, who's this random character in Star Wars or what have you. Yeah.
When you add little things like that, though, it adds realism and also interest, because the page is going forth to do a thing, but when you can slip something in there that's extra, then like you said, Tim, or whoever said it, looking for stuff that'll get you to looking for stuff, and like it just adds a lot of wonder to it. I just think it's so cool.
I've always liked that. Jeff Darrow did that a lot.
I inked in a book called Rocket Girl for Pickle Press, and the guy who did the artwork, Jesus Hernandez, he's from Mexico, and he loved putting in like just a bunch of random stuff. So there's a page or panel or page where this lady was just sitting on a couch listening to headphones, but the headphones happen to have like instead of like they're almost like a Cyberman antenna, but they were horns. And then in this room there was like what was it? It's an old movie, like Mission to the Moon or something like that, or Fight to the Moon, where it shows the rocket or whatever crash on the moon. It's like an old silent movie. He had that. He had Nosferatu statue in the background. He like all these like old classic like pop culture like things that if you didn't know what it was, it was just random stuff. But like if you knew, then you're like, oh my gosh, I know that. Laurel and Hardy were in there. Just, you know what I mean? It was such a fun thing to ink in like that. I love that page.
I just did a piece recently where I put stickers on the wall, and and I was trying to add more stuff, but I'd been on the piece for so long already. I just it's done. Holy moly! Leave it.
Have you guys seen the Starfield trailer?
No, I haven't.
The new game? Was that the new Bethesda game?
Yeah. They had a trailer where
it's Skyrim in space.
It is.
And with modular spaceship design, which I'm all about. But
I can't wait.
Yeah, they had a cut in the trailer where they're walking into the interior of their ship, and you look at the back wall, and there was like actually like written notes and stuff, and there's like the tape is stuck to the wall. If you ever work in contracting, you know what I'm talking about, where instead of trying to fight the tape, you just stick it to the wall. There's markings on the helmet saying like use, don't use. And just like the small little details there to make it look so lived in. It really makes it stand out.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a good lesson for any artist too. Like if you're doing a character and you're doing like their bedroom or office or something like that, you should throw little things in there like little bobbleheads and, you know, just little stupid stuff. And those things alone, they could tell you a lot about a character just because of the stuff, you know, the trash, you know, that they have, you know, scattered around. That'd be awesome.
Well, because it's very relatable as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I did an entire kids book where the whole thing was to find stuff. That was my Miranda fantasy. So each was a 2-page spread, and I put like animals and all sorts of things to find. The idea was to get people to look at the pictures. I put a lot of detail to slow the viewer down, so they would stop and look at it.
Here's something else, and this is kind of along the same line, but it's a little different. How many of y'all used to collect Todd McFarlane books way back in the day when he was doing Spider-Man? Anybody?
Yeah, you talking about what he put the spider in, or Felix the cat?
That's the first thing that I would look for whenever I'd pick up a Spider-Man book. I would start looking for the spider, because he'd hide a spider somewhere in
he used to
on
do
the
Felix
page.
The cat too.
I used to hate when he would make it too obvious. You know,
yeah,
like, man,
really
come on, you could have hit it better than that.
Yeah. But I remember he used to do that. I started figuring that out too. That was mostly Spider-Man. I don't think he did anything with Spawn. I'm trying to think if he did anything.
You know, I don't know if he did or not. Did he, Jose? You're the PhD in Spawn.
I don't know.
You should have said yeah. You should have made something up right
everyone
there.
Going look
yes.
I just want to put it out there. You guys should all find the hidden stuff Aaron put in obsoletes.
Oh.
You mean that obscene things?
I'm supposed to give that away.
Don't tell.
I know.
That was.
Just don't turn the book upside down.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That my tattoo artist. That was his favorite joke after I got done with like a lawn session. He's like, "All right, I'll give you your deposit back if you tell me how many phalluses I put in there."
Yeah.
He's like, and I got all my money back.
Right.
Thankfully, he did not. But there's when we look over, like he's definitely filling in the black spots with a certain pattern. Like, what are you doing?
Right. It's not all of a sudden. Wait, no.
Stop it.
Yeah.
And they'll finish in the shade, and I go, okay, but definitely have to panic there for a little bit. Anyway. So that was publishing by yourself, which you can do now very easily online.
Pretty easily,
Get yourself a Kickstarter, Indiegogo account. If you're just a writer, find an artist, and if you can get one who's willing to collaborate with you and share, dues upon completion. Great. Usually you have to pay them though, and pay your artist a reasonable amount. They are spending much more time on your book than you are. Let's be honest.
I feel that's the underlying theme for the night. Pay your artist, people. Pay your artist.
Yeah, I've often thought of becoming a writer just for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's an underlying theme in indie comics. Is
my 15 minutes in the bathroom could result in an artist's 3-month-long journey to get a book done.
Yes,
yeah, no doubt,
100%. It's that's just me half asleep with my laptop saying like, interior, St. Martin's in the Fields.
Yeah,
and then
no kidding.
Son of a...
And then here I am, 24 hours working on St. Martin's in the Field.
Yeah,
right.
Yes. But yeah, you get yourself a Kickstarter account, get yourself a team, or if you're an artist, get cracking on your book. Not gone are the days where you had to do zine publishing and staple it together.
I remember those.
Yeah.
Not so much from the comic book field, more from like punk rock stuff.
Yes, yeah, 100%. We had a couple artists at our local skate parks where you just had like, You know, that's the whole thing where like some kid would come like, hey, I'll give you like a couple of undo if you'll say staple these pages together for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to find the longer stapler. I did find one that was a longer one that you could staple the book. So you don't have to make miniature books. You guys make full size.
Nice. Yeah.
But I'd like to say that though, if your goal, I think it depends a lot on your goal.
Mm-hmm.
If you like, for instance, before this age that we live in, when I was coming up.
Yes.
Back in the day.
When here's the Warthog.
You had to go to a printer.
Yeah.
You had to go to a printer. You had to get about 3,000 copies, and then you'd be stuck with 3,000 copies, and then you'd have to go sell those 3,000 copies.
Yes.
And 2000 yeah. Was it 97?
Or do elaborate scheme to
get one to your mom, one to your grandma, one to your dad.
Get your elaborate scheme. Get your cousin hired at the local Kinko's or the mom and pop shop.
Yep. You give them a book and then say,
I
hey.
didn't even know that was a viable scheme, plan, strategy until a friend of mine, I found out he started working at a printing shop.
Yeah.
And started like mass printing all his digital art so he can take them to shows and whatnot. Like, I'm like, why did I never think of that?
Materials free for employees.
Young in my age and whatnot, freaking working a factory job one way or the other. I could have been learning a skill.
I worked at the copy center at Office Max for a year or two, and I played with all sorts of machines to learn different techniques and different things that I could do. Yeah.
But you know, what I'd like to say about that though is at the same time, those 3,000 books was the only way you were going to get your stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, yes, that sounds crazy, 3,000 books, but at the same time, there was no other way to get your stuff out there unless you got a job working at the newspaper or something.
Or
get the job with the comics. You know,
right.
So the age we live in now, if you're not worried about making money off of it, if you just got something to say and you want to be heard as a writer or an artist,
or even as an artist,
you could put it out online. You could have a comic book updated every week on your Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest markets right now for indies is actually webtoons, and you know, if you're into making
webtoons, Tapas. There's another one. So, like, there's three that I know of.
There was used to one called
I still don't know how to use them.
Something with
I know
Duck, or
like
Duck or whatever.
I may be working with another Twitch streamer on doing a comic strip going up on Webtoons. More details shortly.
All right.
Oh yeah, that sounds cool.
Well, if you want your stuff to get out there and you want it to be seen, and you're not really if you're not really worried about money, you could just publish it online for people to see, and you could just update it and keep on doing that. Now, if you want the potential of making some sort of income off of it, that's easy too now, because we have Kablam. We have other printers that you can send and have it print on demand.
Yep.
I mean, there's lots of things you can do now that you just couldn't do before. I mean, man, it's so this is such a good time, but at the same time, this comes with its own problems because it is so easy. A lot of people are doing it, and so it's kind of like that little tiny speck on the wall. It's like wallpaper, it's a very elaborate design, but because there's so much of it, you can't see any one part of it. So you go to a comic book store, there's so many comics there, you have to really work hard to make yours stand out.
Yes.
Right.
And
that's tough.
And we'll use that to segue into our next topic, which, if one of the best, or at least from marketing perspective, one of the most proven ways to get yourself in front of people's eyes is to piggyback off of brand recognition.
Yes, and brand.
Yes, and you
got to have
by
Brett.
working with Brett recognition. Yes, get Brett the
press recognition.
Yes, brand recognition. So you can do that by submitting to a larger publisher. We're not just going to talk about the big two. We're going to talk about anyone like 2000 AD / Dynamite and bigger.
Nice.
Because they're we talked about small publishers are typically going to be kind of We're archive.
You know, I didn't know 2000 AD was a comic book, like company and whatnot. I actually thought it was role playing.
No, it's been a magazine.
Well,
for
no,
years.
but I meant before, like when it was strictly just comics, right?
Yes,
like, I thought this was role playing, and then I thought it was comics, and then I found out it was role playing. I'm like, wait a minute.
And then also they have miniature war games put out through Warlords, which does include a Judge Dredd tabletop war game.
Nice.
Yes. But yeah. So with companies like these, typically you're going to find it's more common that they're going to have closed submissions or solicitation only, where they'll reach out to you if you do put out your own stuff online or independently, and you're lucky enough to get put in front of one of the editors, they may reach out to you and ask you to come in. Secondly, to that, the second most common is going to be talent competitions. Mad Cave did this a lot. A lot of companies do this a lot. Where Mad Cow used to have an annual one.
Yeah,
DC had one as well. It was called Zuda.
Yeah. Where it'd be like if you're a writer.
Mad Cave has had one every year for like the last 2-3 years.
Yes,
I know that Japan manga has a ton of these sort of competitions and stuff.
And those are great because it's usually open call, and you're on an open field because you're when you're going to like an open submission, other published writers and artists are submitting to those as well. With her doing like competition, usually they have stipulations on there saying you have to have less than so many publications after you're not published at all to submit. So it's even playing field. There shouldn't be any favorites with there. A lot of times there'll be blind submissions, so your name will be removed from the form before it gets passed on to the judges.
Yeah.
And no, typically if you're a writer, it's gonna be like submit a 5-page microscript or however much they stipulate. Artists submit 5 pages of panels or what have you. And I think that seems to be one of the most common things I've seen that isn't just straight solicitation recently.
Yeah. I it's funny. I've never entered one of the contests. I've never seen one, but I always thought it'd be fun to attempt one.
I did the Zuda one for DC, and I came in 3rd.
Dang.
Nice.
But let me tell you, the way they had that thing set up, it was kind of like, if you had social media presence, you pretty much had it. And I went in with none, 0.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. Getting 3rd with
I fought hard for my 3rd. Yeah. And it's so crazy because often you would see stuff win that you would go through and they'd have they'd have 10 10-page comics.
Okay.
10 of them. And they would be totally different kinds of art, totally different styles, totally different stories. And people would look through them and, they would judge them based on, different criteria or whatever. Anyway, some of the strangest stuff would end up always winning. Yeah. And it wouldn't be the same kind of stuff every time. But I mean, there was this one guy, I could have swore he won 1st place with what looked to be something that just came out of a Sharpie. It was very loose, very cartoon. It looked like newspaper. It was very basic. But the story that he was telling him, because he had that social media presence and he had already done the contest, so he knew a little bit about how to game it, just a little. So I felt pretty proud of the 3rd place because I was going in there with just what I had on me. And that's what resulted in me, that comic that I showed the last time I was on, this comic.
Yeah,
that's what resulted in this comic, was because I'd already done 10 pages for the Zuda. Now the difference was the orientation was not 6x10 or 7x10 or whatever it is. The orientation was like this. Now, so I had to
letterbox
in order to do this comic, I had to go back in with my computer and cut out panels and remake the pages. Mm-hmm. So I had to remake a lot of the stuff afterward. Yeah. But anyway, it was a good experience for me. It was a good learning experience. Yeah. Zuda didn't. They had probably 6 or 7 contests, and that was it.
Yeah.
But anyway, whoever won was supposed to be able to have a chance at getting like, you know, a deal with DC or whatever. And of course, DC changes hands like, you know,
right.
Nobody's business. So
yeah.
So as soon as that got bought up, they got rid of it.
Yeah. And the nice thing to competitions like those also is that even if you don't necessarily you win the contract, your name is now in front of editors in some aspect.
Yep.
That's one thing I was thinking is like, even if you don't, I mean, because they look at like the top 3, right? Probably not all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you'd ever attempt something like that again?
No, because the only reason why is because we are older now, and you know, I mean, I just don't. I guess what it is, the problem is I'm not hungry enough. I do the stuff that is like for Silverline, and I'm just not really interested in. Like, I don't take a lot of commissions. You know, there's some artists that they're taking commissions all the time, and I just don't. You know, I take commissions for stuff that I'm kind of interested in, or you know, I have a, you know, I just don't. I don't have time. You know,
an artist of passion.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And I've always enjoyed. I mean, I've never really attempted to go. The only company that I submitted anything to that work as a pencil would be Dark Horse, and but it was like this ghost submission, and it was like this sort of superhero, and I don't do superhero stuff that well, so I don't think it worked. But that was it. I never had any inclination to do Marvel DC. I was more excited to do my own stuff. Yeah.
Well, I used to do submissions. I've done submissions for Dark Horse, for Marvel, for DC.
Yeah.
But when I looked back through them, though, I mean, they were pretty bad. You know. But,
I look at my old Ghost one. It's like, I could.
Yeah, I'm glad of that they didn't like say, okay, come on in, because it would have been bad.
Probably the most valuable thing about submitting to these kind of competitions too is it is a growing experience. You are creating something to guidelines, and depending on the competition layout, you may even get feedback back. When feedback is the most important tool as a creator.
Yeah.
Another thing that I have seen become more popular recently, especially among medium-sized publishing houses, something got popularized. Was very popular, but got solidified by Image, is the full book submission. So it's like you and your artist, or you yourself, create the full book, at least like to the point where it's lettered and inked, and you don't necessarily need to have it colored in most cases.
Yeah,
and then you submit that off to the publishing editor, and they'll decide whether or not to purchase that and either ask you to color it or hire a colorist for you, or if you want to do it black and white, do it black and white.
Yeah, that's what I.
But that's if you're submitting. That's if you're submitting your story / your book. You know what I mean? As opposed to submitting yourself as an artist, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Ish. So if you a lot of times if you are applying for a job as an in-house artist, they'll have a separate portal for this. But if you're just trying to work on your own book, either as an artist or a writer, that's what they'll look for. So if you don't want to be an in-house artist who just kind of gets whatever gets thrown at you, if you want to work on something that you helped create, that's how you would submit it. And then usually now, I believe Image has done it so that everything is done through that. So if all their in-house artists are hired off of that, they've already done a book through.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. To submit to them, you have to. They don't pretty much take submissions. Their submissions is, we want your book, your work, and you submit that to us. But they're not like, you don't submit to them for you to work on somebody else's book.
Yeah.
You submit to them your story, your book, and they'll decide. And if they decide they want you, then they make suggestions and make you make changes and whatever it is. They kind of become your editor for your stuff.
For your book to become an imprint, right?
Right.
Yeah.
For yours to have that Image label on there.
Yes.
But like like I was saying, you know, I did all that stuff back in the day, you know, submitting to all that and stuff, but I just, you know, I don't, when I did get to where I felt like I was good enough or that my work was a little bit on par, somewhat, you know, what I believe to be anyway, by that time I was like, you know, the comic industry, the way it is, I don't really even care to, because I don't, you know, I don't care to be doing any of that, you know, and
Right.
under that kind of leadership. And
Yeah.
but then, you know, I saw what Roland was doing with Silverline, and I was like, now this is something that I could see spending my extra time on that I would enjoy, because I'm doing something, because it's something I can believe in, you know, and it's something that I can get behind, you know. So that's why I'm here and not trying to get over there. So
yeah, submitting to something that does a full book submission. Image isn't the only one anymore. There are other houses that do it as well. It's definitely something where you want that to be your life for a while. You want like you and your artist, or if you just did yourself, yourself are completely confident in that book. You want to get that out in that way. You want, you know, perhaps you're hoping to catapult your career further, and writing off of Image's back is certainly a good tool for that. So, but
yeah,
if
it's a good thing, you know, for name recognition. You know, I did this Image book.
But if you don't want that to be your life, you know, consider looking at other options.
Yeah.
Let's see there. And another thing I want to talk about. I'm not sure if they changed theirs, but there are other medium-sized publishers, sometimes a little larger, that still do open submissions, but with a few stipulations to it. It's not just, you know, submit your page or switch your script or whatever. Yeah. I believe 2080 still does this, and a few others do this, where they'll have samples from their main lines, and like, okay, now do your take on this for whatever the next chapter is going to be. So I believe for a while the 2080s was you'd get like 5 page if you're writing, it'd be like, here's 5 pages of Judge Dredd, finish the story. And because they want to know that you can write a comic the way they write a comic, in the style they write a comic and the tone they write a comic.
Right. Especially if it's like imprint, like 2000 AD and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you'll find also a lot of those for brands that at least have, you know, recognizable names in some aspect, because they want to keep a cohesive voice throughout.
Yeah, I was. You know, it's funny. I'm thinking when you were saying, I was thinking like Marvel and DC don't really have.
They're both solicitation only now.
A little bit, yeah. But even with the writing, like they kind of have, I guess, similar voices.
They have like tones for the year. Like, we want everyone to be cohesive up until this big event, and then we'll figure out what we're doing from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're solicitation only. So what they'll do is they'll reach out at the start of one year, reach out to everyone like, hey, we want you to write next year's whatever, or do art on next year's whatever.
Right.
And so then, but they no longer accept submissions at this point.
Yeah. And that, you know, that used to be one of the big draws to me, you know, especially like during the late 90s and early 2000s. That used to be one of the big things for me. It's like knowing that this book that I'm reading, I could actually submit to these people, and you know, there's a possibility, you know, that I could work there, and
join them.
Yeah, and that was such a cool thing. But now they you know, they are as they are now, and you know, they're going to keep fooling around till, you know, people aren't going to care, you know, like me. I've got to where I could care less whether they call me or not. And I'm, you know, some may be saying, well, I bet you wish you could work there. No, I don't. I've talked to people who've worked for them, you know,
people who left them.
And I have talked to artists before that said to me that they were nearly bagging groceries in between jobs that they would get. And I'm not naming any, I'm not going to name any names, but I mean, when I heard that, I was like, holy moly. I mean, that I'm not working for anybody like that. I have a job, you know, and you know, I've got security, you know. If I'm going to do comics, it's going to be on the side, and that's what I've done. You know,
definitely.
But see, if you get with them, because there's so many people pining and trying to get with them, you know, their attitude is, well, if you can't do it in this amount of time, then we'll find somebody who will.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, well, you can have that.
That's
you know?
Sometimes another way to get into publishing, which is a roundabout, which I don't know if this will work for me. I finished my Galleons. I'm putting it as one book. I was originally going to put it as 12 issues, but I'm really going to want to put it out there as one book because graphic novels sell better, and it was always meant to be that. But selling it on your own and selling in stores, sometimes people will notice, like if you're independent and you're selling your book, if it sells okay, that like, hey man, okay, we'll make more of that, especially if you're small. Like, we'll help you make more of that. I've seen a few artists and stuff who just go out and put out their book and all of a sudden get noticed and picked up and be like, oh, yeah. There's a few famous artists that have done that.
And it's technically falls under solicitation, and that you're being solicited by an editor to submit your work.
Especially if the book is done too.
Yeah. And that's something that happens at every level. So if you're creating your own thing in any aspect, and if you want to work at Marvel and DC, if you want to work at like Image or 2000, or if you want to work with like a small in-house thing like VR, if you're just creating your own thing and you're getting eyes on it in some way, you're doing your own marketing, at some point, an editor may reach out and be like, hey, we want you to either work on X, or we want you to, like, you know, collaborate in some way.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you're not sure where you want to go, but you want to work in comics, make a Webtoons account, start doing stuff, and try get your hands dirty in social media marketing, just trying to get eyes on it, because, you know, that's the best thing you can do for your career starting out. Is just getting eyes.
They just that comic Lore Olympus, which is a big one on Webtoons. I just saw the graphic novel that in Target.
Yeah.
So it just put your stuff out there and see. I mean, you never know who's going to see it or notice it. I mean, it's a long shot, but I do think there's still that idea of like the artist's vision. Somebody putting out a book or something that is unfiltered through an editor. I mean, there's always points for editors for spelling mistakes or whatever, but I do think sometimes editors and stuff are more concerned with, is it marketable, can we sell this, and less concerned with the artist's vision. And there's been a lot of books that have come out that, you know, really speak to the artist's vision. I mean, The Crow is one. I mean, The Crow, if you look at it, is not really that viable a book to sell, but the vision was so powerful and it was so unfiltered through him that it sent a message. So I do think comics, there's an important, especially in publishing, there's stuff that is edited and created to be marketable to the public, and there's also stuff that I think needs to be out there that is an artist's vision. I think there's room for both, but there's been a lot of books that have been artist visions that, and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. I'm glad no editor came in and tried to fix it.
I think if there is definitely always good getting value and feedback, but making sure that feedback's come from a place of, what's your goal with this? How can I help you reach that goal? Versus, I don't think this is going to do well. I mean, I understand that my Galleons may not be the most marketable book, but I do think there's enough in there that I think it'll go to a certain audience will like it. It'll speak to them. So I mean, that's what I'm hoping.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like this. You've got an artist or a writer who has a story that they love, that they believe in, that they've enjoyed doing, and then they do it. They put the work in or whatever, but then you've got this, you know, enterprising person who comes in and they're like, they want to change the artist's work into something that is as consumable as possible by as many people as possible. And they're not wrong.
They're not wrong.
If you want to make money at it. But if your goal as an artist or a writer is to get your story out, that's a totally different animal. It's a totally different job. But that guy, if you give the reins over to that guy, you're going to be making changes. You know, if money is your goal, there's ways to do it, you know, and you know, you should follow that, but just know that your story and your stuff has to be like Play-Doh. It has to be able to change. It has to be malleable.
If he's going. Now, like you said, on the flip side, I mean, imagine if somebody came in and edited the Ninja Turtles with Peter Laird, or Bone. Bone's a good one with Jeff Smith. Those probably, I mean, at the time Jeff Smith came out with Bone, I don't see any of the big two doing it. Strangers in Paradise was another. And I remember Terry Moore talking many times. He'd taken Strangers in Paradise to various companies or whatever. Oh no, we're not interested in that. They self-published it, and boom. So, and it stuck to his vision. So there is something to be said about that. Are you playing a long shot? Maybe. Depends on what you want to do.
I think also another thing to keep in mind if you are just looking to get started in comics publishing in some way is that it's entirely possible to do both in the course of your career. It's like Rick Remender or somebody is talking about they have the work that they did independently or with smaller houses, and they said that was their artwork. And they said with the big two, they did their popcorn comics. That was what they did to make their money, and it was complete. And it was just a paycheck. It was there to have fun, make something digestible, but their hard work went in with the stuff that they had control over.
That's almost what Image has become, because there's a lot of the creators and artists and writers at Image work for the big two or have, and then go make their own stuff with Image.
It's Matt Fraction and Rick Remender. That's kind of what their thing is.
Yeah, which is nice, but there's also frustrating because everybody wants a piece of that Image pie a little bit, and it's annoying that you kind of have to know that you are even going to Image, which is independent publisher, you're still competing against people who have made their claim to fame through the big two. A lot.
That's kind of why they have like they're even like Image has even smaller imprints like Madco and whatever, which is kind of usually if you're just breaking into they'll get you assigned with someone at Madco or what have you.
Hyper Potato late night Silverline party, baby.
Coming in at the tail end here,
You think it's late night now? Wait till the disco ball comes out. Then
that's right. Yeah. Wait till Aaron takes his shirt off. Then we really there.
Then watch those subscriber numbers just skyrocket.
Yes, that's right.
I'm breaking the internet, man. You just want to see me with my shirt off. I get it.
It's been an interesting episode. We talked about Aaron shirtless. We talked about whipping Aaron earlier.
Wow,
there's just a lot done that wants to be done to my body tonight. Yeah. All in the name of comics, though. That's for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
All that persecution and
persecution.
Yeah.
Do it for comics, man. Do it for comics.
Yeah. All that sexual harassment, all for comics.
Yeah.
Nobody's too old for a topless comic party. Just depends on who's topless.
You're never too old for a topless comic party.
I know. Oh, it's funny, but I have seen a lot of people, and that's the route I'm doing, is just do my own book.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing this stuff to enjoy doing it. And I enjoy the work, and I try to make it enjoyable. And sometimes I'm not down with it. I'm not, I get off work, I push away from this desk, and then I know I have to do more, and I push back up to it. But I try to find ways to make it enjoyable sometimes. But, because things aren't enjoyable 100% of the time, even though you're doing something that you like to do, it's not something you like to do all the time. Like,
sometimes it actually is work.
Yeah, I like to do comics, but when I say that, I'm thinking of all the money shots. I like to do money shots.
I know.
The cool stuff. But, when characters, when you know that you got a page coming up, that characters are just dialogue, and you're like, oh, well, now I've got to figure out interesting angles to make all this mundane stuff look cool, and you can't. It's like,
it's funny. I've noticed myself, I've gotten away from using angles. I still do to a degree, but I've tried to focus more on body language and acting. Maybe that's not going to work for me. I guess I really got that from Bone. The Bone's a little different, but I remember reading Bone, and it was more cartoon. I mean, he had a degree in animation. So, but to go through that and just watch all the same sort of sad flat, but it was all acting and body movement. And I remember getting really engrossed in that. I'm like, I want to try that. Because it seems like angle, that was like, a lot of the superhero comics with different angles, like looking down or whatever. But I always feel like if I wanted to do some of those extreme angles, I would want it to mean something in the argument, if that makes sense. I mean, I always remember that scene from the original Mission Impossible, the original movie with Tom Cruise. And there was the one where he sees the guy in the cafe or something, the one where he throws the gum against the the fishbowl and breaks it, and it comes out. But if you watch that scene, the way they started, every time the scene got more intense, the angles got more intense.
Yes.
And that's like, that was really effective. I mean, just like getting that sort of, that tension through those angles. And I'm like, as I was like, because if I start using it all the time, you're going to lose that. So when you finally do use it, it should be for the right one. That doesn't always. I mean, superhero comics are made for like extreme angles, and I don't really do superhero comics. So.
Now I have an idea for a gratuitous assassin comic called Money Shot, Stork with Clinton.
Yes.
Okay, so you might want to argue or change the name, so in case an editor wants to let you know.
Yeah.
There's already a comic called that.
Your comic
and it could be misconstrued. Money Shot. What is this? Some kind of stripper comic or something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Jose writes Money Shot. You know that. Look at him. You could tell.
Money Shot.
I'm just in this to make as much money as possible, and then fight Scott Snyder at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro and take his place.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Well, I mean, don't most art careers end with a senseless knife fight with your
exactly, yeah,
peer to take them over, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
The Klingon rules of rank as well, and the rules of artist ranking are exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, we've been that Silverline Show on Tuesday. You have been TK. We have been beautiful. So
we are always beautiful.
Yes. Okay. Any closing thoughts here in our last couple minutes?
We're in a good.
Pay your artists.
What? Yeah.
Pay your artists.
We live in a good.
Writers don't need to be paid. Ask TK. They don't need to be paid. Artists do.
I
take all the money, pay the writer, pay the artist.
My final thoughts is, if you want to do comics, if you have a story to tell, you tell that story. You make it fun for yourself. You enjoy it. Two people, Laird and Eastman, with the Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. They were two guys having a good time, and people caught on, and they noticed, and they loved it. Yeah. If you love it, mm-hmm. do it. And if something comes of it,
great.
But the thing is to do it. And you're living in a time right now that if you got a voice, if you got something to say, there's plenty of places for you to say it and for people to hear it. So, do what you got to do. If that's what you want to do, then as long as you're willing to put the work in and do the sacrifice after hours to do it, you're welcome to do it. So,
yeah. And you have to be patient. Just know when you make your comic and put it out there, is anyone going to read it? Probably not. That's going to take work to get people to read it. But once they do read it, because I've had a few people read my stuff and really like it. People I don't know. It's always thrilling. But just know there's a general aversion when you give comics to people. They don't, and I'm not really sure why. Especially if people end up reading comics, but you give them their comic. Like, I read comics, just not yours. But keep going. You'll eventually get there. Mm-hmm. Like, and this is what I mean. Do it for fun. And I never take any offense that people don't read my comic. Well, not necessarily. It depends on who that is. Because I just assume they just got other stuff to do. People forget all the time. But don't get dismayed by that. That's why I think Quentin said make it for yourself and enjoy it. Because
that's right.
Yeah.
If you're making it for yourself, you win.
Yep.
Because and even if somebody has a criticism about it, you should listen to the criticism because it'll make you better. But at the same time, what you do is not for everybody. Some people aren't going to get what you're doing because you're doing it for yourself. Yeah. And, whenever people are critical about whatever it is that you're working on, just remember, hey, did I have fun doing it? Yeah. Because that's where the payment really is. And, if that's what you're looking for. Now, if you're looking in it for the money, I don't know what to tell you because I have no experience in that.
I know. We have no experience earning gobs of money from our work yet.
Yeah, because I don't do it for that. So I can't really tell you what to do in that case. Find you some tycoon that's going to change your ideas until they're not even a shade of what they were when you started. And you probably make a little bit of cash or maybe not, but it ain't going to be the story that you started with. But if you want to do it, if you want to get a story out there and you want to, reach people with your story, you do it. You got plenty of places to do it.
And there's an unfortunate example of, like, if you want to become like a full-time comics writer, you're probably gonna get contracts like the big two, but then look at people like Donny Katz. He's working on like 8 books a month.
Yeah.
If he's working on anything less, he may not be, be able to be solvent. He has to work on 8 books a month.
And remember, if you want to get your stuff edited or whatever, if you show it to Jose, he'll be completely critical of it.
Yes.
He might even shank you if it really sucks that bad. So always be careful when showing it to Jose, man. He's packing. You can tell.
Jose will grow you up.
The problem is you make that sound like a bad thing.
You make it sound like that's a problem, punk.
Yeah.
Right?
I can just see him walking up the convention, just random dead bodies. Yeah, the comics sucked. So
it's a clean on rules of rank, Just
it's weeding out the bad ones.
Yeah,
man, all it is.
Bunch of patocks.
That's right.
Yeah, they got what they deserved.
You guys,
especially from Jose.
Anyway, that was my final thoughts.
All right.
That was a good thought.
That was a good
thought. Good.
I like your thoughts, Quentin.
Yes.
They're good, well formed.
So I don't know what I did with it now. I had a book. I wanted to show you guys the book I had.
You don't know. Okay.
So when I first started working on publishing, self-publishing my own book, I bought this book.
Nice.
Ooh, I've never heard of that one. I've seen books like that, but I don't think I've seen that.
Tony C. Caputo. Where did you get that book?
Man, I don't even know. Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. Jeez, I can't even tell you, dude. I've had this book honestly forever.
Looks like a cool book.
I have an old classic, How to Make Comics. That was a super old book.
I got Valentine's Day cards in here and whatnot. Yeah.
That was the one where I learned how to do ink, and I think it was like How to Make Comics, and that's why they talked about the tools and stuff. That's how I figured out all the brushes and the inks and whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't remember
I had someone, a friend of mine who when he started off with, he was swearing by, was it the DC book on how to ink?
Yeah, I have that one too. The Dark Horse one. I have the Dark Horse one.
I was kind of like, dude, that's all right. Some of that is relevant, but some of it is not. You need to.
It's funny because now I wonder, I wonder how relevant the Dark Horse inking would be to digital inking today. I think there would be some relevance, but digital inking does. Yeah, I don't know.
It's different.
It's like anything else now. There's so many different ways to do some of this stuff, especially when you break over into the digital part.
Yeah.
So many different ways to. I mean, just alone when you start talking about layers and all that stuff, and doing different layer filters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff. I mean, chew up the meat, spit out the bones. Because I know Roberta, whenever I watch her, I love her coloring. She colors totally different than what I do.
She really does. But it's awesome.
But her stuff, oh my goodness, so good. And again,
really
if she was teaching me something, if she was like setting me down, or if she was doing a video or something, and she was showing me something, there's some of that stuff that I would use, and but there's some stuff that look, I just can't do that.
I can't do that.
I can't do what you're doing.
I'm like you. I'm so kind of stuck. I've done my coloring style so long that I just kind of slip back into it. I never, it's funny. I never could do the lassoing stuff as much with the gradient because I was usually using a mouse. Now with the Cintiq, I wonder if I could do that because the pin on the screen, I might be easier.
I switch it up a little. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't.
Yeah,
but
I've
you got to do it however you can enjoy it.
Yeah,
and
but
get
I've always
done
the cartoon style of coloring. The thick shadows,
cell shading and stuff.
Yeah, that's always been more. And I have a weird. I don't even know if mine's cell shading because I've seen other people. Pardon me.
I started out coloring doing cell shading.
Yeah,
because I wanted it to be simple and whatnot. But then I'm like, it's good for some, not everything. You know what I mean? Some things need that rendered, need that texture. You know what I mean? Some things you can get away with just like a little bit of changing of the value or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's why there's certain comics and certain stories that I know my art wouldn't fit. A straight up horror comic, I don't know. I would love to. I would love to take the challenge to do one. I don't know if my art style would ever fit that. It would be me using more. I used to use a lot of blacks in my work, so it'd be me going back to using a lot of blacks, which has been a while. And I'm not the greatest. Sometimes I use too much of the blacks, so you lose the picture. But
sure.
Like a little short horror story, I'd love to take a crack at it sometime. I'm not really super good at writing.
I can handle that for you.
Yeah,
that's what I used to do.
I know a guy.
Yeah,
I know.
Like maybe I've won an award or two.
Do you write scary stuff, Tim?
Jam.
Yes, yeah. That was what I did before I got into history, learning historicals. I wrote science fiction horror.
Well, you got to do historical horror now.
In high school, weren't you, Tim?
What?
You were that goth kid in high school, weren't you?
I still am.
I still am. What are you talking about?
I'm wearing the Frog Brothers shirt, man.
The Frog Brothers.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have been. Let's see there. Thank you guys for chatting in the audience there. Thank you for watching. If you're watching the VOD, you who've been that Silverline show on Tuesday, we have been fantastic. We'll see you next week at the same time. You can also check out. I turned to Max Edderman again. We'll also be here. Different team will be here Wednesdays and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. So until next time.
Oh, also
Silverline.
Yes,
Silverline's going to be at Infinity Twin Comic Convention this weekend.
Yes,
that's
this weekend.
And then a herd of Silverline creators are going to be in Daytona.
It's like a herd. Yeah,
I'll be at Daytona. Yeah,
I'm going to hope to make it down one year.
If anyone wants to throw round kicks in the parking lot, I'm down.
Right.
I got to go.
We'll do body blows.
I got to go when Kurt goes so I can kung fu fight him in the street. Get my ass
beat. Yeah. Hey, Curtis was feeling this year, and we were joking that it's going to turn into us sparring in the hotel gym. I think
Brent is he's also a practicer of the martial arts, isn't he?
I believe Dean is too.
Yep, yeah. Dean does Shotokan sport karate, and I believe Brent does as well. Yeah. And then I do Euro and Thailand style kickboxing.
Yeah. I just assume if one of you guys wanted to, you would just silently take me out sometime and I wouldn't even know it.
I can work on
it.
You can work on it?
Already figured out.
Just get random packages in the mail. What's this?
Right. Surprise uppercut.
It's like there was a glove that just came out and knocked me.
Wasn't that a cartoon? With a package coming
in? All right. Well, we'll catch you guys next time. Quentin, you have something else you want to say?
Yeah. Hey, don't forget.
Hi, my name is Sergio Cariello, and make mine Silverline.